It's 1997, and I have to sneak downstairs to watch my older brother Sean play Final Fantasy VII, because I was not old enough to play rated teen games. But Sean eventually was able to convince Mom to allow me to play it, and my 7-year-old mind just could not fully fathom the complexities of such an amazing story. But man, did it plant the seeds to my imagination, and those roots are burrowed in real deep into my mind. But as I grow older and life happens, I start to understand, or I've understood the core themes of Final Fantasy VII about life and death. In 2006, my brother Sean passed away with cancer. So I feel closer to him when I play Final Fantasy VII, like a bridge that connects me to him, like the live stream. Final Fantasy VII is part of who I am. For me and for many others, it transcends gaming with its iconic characters and world, its music, the nostalgia, its themes of love and loss, self-discovery. It's all so relatable. And that is why Final Fantasy VII will always be, quite possibly, the greatest game ever made.
Final Fantasy VII was special not only because it was a fun game to play, but because its thematic content combined with exceptional storytelling showed us that video games could be much more than interactive toys. They could expand our horizons, making us think about relevant life themes and feel for characters with whom we could relate. It was more than just a game to many of us who grew up with it. It was a formative experience.
After 23 years, die-hard Final Fantasy fans have finally been reunited with their favorite cast of characters in their favorite JRPG world. For those of us that have been eagerly waiting to return to Midgar, long before there were whispers of a remake, there's no greater gift than this.
Final Fantasy VII is my favorite out of all the Final Fantasies because it was really my first experience with a JRPG. I grew up playing video games as a kid, mostly on Nintendo consoles, so when I first experienced Final Fantasy VII, it was with my best friend who owned a PlayStation console. I was just completely blown away by the characters, the graphics, and the amazing story. It really resonated with me. That's why I continue today to talk about Final Fantasy VII, and I've created the Reunion podcast, and I can't wait to see where Square Enix takes the story in part 2 of the remake.
Hi guys, it's MJ Gallagher. Final Fantasy VII had a profound impact on my life, and it's the main reason that I became a writer. It's the first RPG that I ever played, and remains my favourite game to this day. The characters, the story, the themes, all of it helped shape my view of the world. As a result of Final Fantasy VII, I have met some insanely talented individuals. Because of Final Fantasy VII, I've been invited to international conventions. Because of Final Fantasy VII, I've won awards as a writer. So I think it would be fair to say that without Final Fantasy VII, my life would be very different.
Final Fantasy VII was the first game to provide me with a true narrative experience. It proved to me that the medium could tell a story that fundamentally changed how I saw the world. More than any other game, it connected me to a profound sense of wonder, excitement, fear, sadness, and even loss. It inspired me to view the planet as something that should be revered, protected. Nothing has ever had that kind of impact on me.
This game has changed my life for the way better, and it's let me grow this YouTube channel. It's let me connect with you guys from all around the world, and that's why I think that it's had such a cultural impact, because no matter what walk of life you're from, no matter whether, you know, your sexuality, your gender, your race, your religion, no matter what, this game connects all of us. And that is just beautiful and a magical thing to me.
Final Fantasy VII touches so many people and captures something about us that is fundamentally human, or perhaps mortal about us. It's a story that challenges us to think about areas of our lives that we oftentimes don't want to think about. And it also shows that people continue to live and find good times even in the darkest of situations. And that in the end, we too, along with everyone we love, eventually have to return to the life stream. It forces us to find more meaning in regular life.
Welcome to Final Podcast VII. This is a very special FFTV special. Final Podcast. We are dedicating the entire episode to the legacy of Final Fantasy VII. And joined with me in the party, I always PHS these boys into the party. This is Vinny McGovern, Osby Tomlin, and Reed Daniels. Well, how are you guys doing today? Are you ready to celebrate Final Fantasy VII?
Absolutely. I just want to say Vinny, Osby, and Reed, also known as Honey Bunches and Oats.
the Honey Bunches and Oats. When are you dropping the new album, bro?
Ain't even mad.
It's coming.
So we have a very special one for you. Like, as I said, we're dedicating the entire episode to Final Fantasy VII. And yeah, I mean, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about the original game, the compilation, and our unfiltered thoughts on Final Fantasy VII. But before we begin, you know the deal. It's time to introduce ourselves. We are Final Fan TV. On this channel, we aspire to create awesome Final Fantasy content that we hope you enjoy watching and or listening to. As this channel grows, much like a character gains new abilities, we have plans to start new shows, like Let's Plays of the entire franchise, in-depth reviews of each game? What? A more frequently posted news and rumor show? Yes, that is right. So,
yes,
you are among the first to start a new game with Final Fan TV, and we would like to thank you for getting us past 100 subscribers. We are now at the time of this recording at ironically or coincidentally 177. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Final Podcast 7, Final Fantasy 7.
I mean, we're only 1-7 away, right?
Dude, let me tell you, man. Let me tell you, we are very grateful for each and every one of you guys for subbing to the channel, for watching our content, for leaving the feedback. We really enjoy when you add to the conversation. I read through every single comment and I try to reply to each one. And yeah, me and the boys here, we love having you guys add on to the conversation. So we ask that you do that as well with this one in particular. We would love for you to share your Final Fantasy VII story. Why is this game so important to you? We're about to share, you saw in the intro video, me and the boys here and several other people, content creators and authors alike. They a lot of people came together. I reached out to them to ask them to share their story and they obliged. And I really wish I could have been able to get more people. I know this game has touched so many people, and I wish I would have been able to get more people, but it's very hard to get in contact with people on the internet. Which I completely understand.
Who knew, right?
Yeah, who knew? So yes, so thank you. Well, thank you if you enjoyed that.
So we've shared our thoughts in that intro, but we're also going to elaborate on it more in the next coming hour or so about the original game. We got some fun games like see this meme going around where y'all sitting. There's like empty lunch table, and I went ahead and put a Final Fantasy VII theme on it. We're going to be sitting at the bar at Wall Market and Seventh Heaven, and we got multiple tables. Most of the characters from Final Fantasy VII are chilling at these tables. You're gonna have to pick a table. So that'll be a little bit later on in the show. But so let's get it underway. I would like to ask you guys to really give your Final Fantasy VII story here. I know we haven't had really the opportunity. I have expressed my story a couple times on this show. I did it at the beginning of this the intro, and yeah, so I'm not going to elaborate it on too much more because I know I've said it a couple times now. So it is a big inspiration for me. There's obviously a lot more of my favorite memories that I would like to talk about, and yeah, so let me go on, and I'm going to start with Vinny McGovern. What's up, man?
Nothing much. Just enjoying the quiet in my house right now.
Yeah, well, that's always good when you can get some quiet, Vinny.
Gotta hit that mute button on everybody, you know?
Yeah. In real life, like Adam Sandler, click. Like, yeah. So we'll just go ahead and give me your Final Fantasy VII story, Vinny.
All right. So, I'm pretty sure I spoke about part of it when in an earlier episode, but my friend actually showed me Final Fantasy VII. I saw Final Fantasy X at his house. His father was playing it, and I didn't know that it was like Final Fantasy. It just looked really cool. And then my friend introduced me to Final Fantasy VII, and he let me borrow all 3 of his discs, and I played through them on my PlayStation. And that's when that's where my love for the series came from. And then, fast forward when I'm in high school, Final Fantasy just always used to be something I'd bring up to people, kind of like, scouting new friends. I'd bring up Final Fantasy, and if I can connect to somebody on Final Fantasy, I mean, that's actually how Daniel and I became friends.
I used the same technique on you.
You're kind of like you're kind of like drafting friends. You're like, yeah, so how do you feel about Final Fantasy VII? And then depending on the reaction, you're just like, I'm gonna know this guy for the rest of my life. But
it's like Tinder, but with Final Fantasy.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I was gonna say. It's so funny. You meet someone on the internet talking about Final Fantasy VII, and then you meet them, and they don't actually know anything about it. Instead of catfishing, it's Kate sithing. You're welcome.
But so Final Fantasy VII has a special place in my heart because I went through a really bad breakup, and it was it was pretty bad, and I felt pretty low about myself because it's weird. So the woman I was with ended up cheating on me with my best friend at the time, and I've known him since 3rd grade, and he was actually the one who introduced me to Final Fantasy VII. So Final Fantasy VII was always like, I always used to play it when I would feel down or anything, because it just, even though I know the entire story like front and back, upside down, I just always still played it because I just loved the story, and it always got me out of whatever funk I was in. And when that happened, I played Final Fantasy VII so often. I wasn't working at the time because they let me have some time off, and I was at Temple of the Ancients and doing the clock. I remember doing the clock at Temple of the Ancients, and I fell asleep while playing because I was playing for like I think 70 something hours straight.
Oh, Jesus.
And yeah, it was definitely 70 something hours straight, because I remember trying to leave Midgar by like level 50 to get
that.
You a badass.
You
just throw that out there.
Well, I got, you know, Cloud and Barrett to level 99 before fighting the Scorpion tank that one time.
Stop! I can only get so erect. Stop it.
But I fell asleep and I woke up the next day.
Like the Scorpion's tail.
Tail is up, baby.
Well, it didn't matter because I one-shot him. The tail never actually got a chance to go up. I just hit him once. I had lightning 3 and it just killed him.
I hate when that.
But so I fell asleep playing Final Fantasy. I woke up in my chair with the controller still in my hand at the same exact spot. And, you know, they were like my PlayStation. It was on my PS1. My PS1 never turned off. You know, it's not like how it is today where, you know, the consoles kind of say like, are you still playing? But so I woke up and I made some pizza nuggets and then I just kept playing. I just went right back to playing.
It's a very vivid memory of pizza
nuggets. Yeah. Just look, I made pizza nuggets.
You know how they say like when you go through something, you know, traumatic, you can remember every single detail of what was going on.
True.
It's weird because Final Fantasy isn't like traumatic to me, but I can call back to almost every single time I've played Final Fantasy VII, like not the whole entire like run through, but like always every playthrough had something where like I can call back and be like, oh, I remember when I did that playthrough and like that happened, or I tried to do a no death run and I got to carry armor and I got completely cheated. He grabbed 2 people and then killed the last person. I was like, well, there goes that, because I wasn't saving for a no death run. So fast forward a little bit more, I lived in New York. I ended up moving to Staten Island, and I had a friend, and he and I would talk about, we met because we would take a train to school, and he was always at like my stop when we would go home, not when we would come. And so I saw him drawing in his notepad one day, and he was drawing Cloud and Tifa. And so I was just like, dude, that's like my favorite game. And we became friends after that. And he wasn't one of the most popular people in school. He actually ended up getting bullied a lot. But you know, he was a great person. And we always talked about Final Fantasy VII. Like I looked forward to the end of the day so like we could talk about it. We talked about like the like that fake remake trailer that came out that got everybody super hyped.
2005 tech demo.
Bruh.
Yeah. And then so he ended up getting bullied a lot. And we always talked about how like the heroes in Final Fantasy VII, like they stood up for people and they made you see like, you know, it's cool to be like, you could still be a badass and do the right thing. Like you don't have to, you know, pick on people weaker than you to feel strong. You know, you can do the right thing and feel strong. But he got bullied a lot, and he ended up jumping in front of the train one day. And so he was a good friend of mine, and that when that happened, I played Final Fantasy VII again, and it was like kind of hard to play through it, but it also made me realize like this game, from when I got introduced to it till now, like it's what made me want to be a good person. Like, you know, I got bullied in school too, sometimes, and like never did I ever feel like I needed to belittle somebody else to feel, you know, strong. But ever since that happened, I felt that I needed to kind of owe it to him and owe it to myself to just always try and be a good person. And I feel like if I never had like Final Fantasy VII in my life, then I wouldn't be nearly as good of a person as I am today.
Well said, Vinny. Thank you for sharing that story. Osby, what's your Final Fantasy VII story, man?
Much like Vinny, and maybe not to the extent, or maybe even more. I got bullied a lot in school. Later in life, I think it was in high school, I had a growth spurt and was magically bigger than everyone. They stopped bullying me. It's crazy how that happens. But when I was, 1997, 1998, I was the short, fat kid who lived in a racially divided southern town. Now, I was a short, fat kid with a long braid running down my back. So you can imagine the things that I got called on a daily basis. And Final Fantasy VII, when it happened, it became my escape. It was my escape from reality. So I was really big into professional wrestling at the time, and that was an escape, but I could only watch that on Monday nights, So Final Fantasy VII became something I could do every day after school. And I think I mentioned this previously on one of our other podcasts. I didn't have a memory card, so I basically relived that damn reactor over and over, probably 40 or 50 times. But Final Fantasy VII, it felt like I had a connection more to some of the characters in the game than I did with friends, or even they were more friends to me than friends at school were, because they were little assholes. They would treat you like crap, But over the years, Final Fantasy VII evolved from an escape from reality to more of a connection with reality, because I had friends that took their own life that loved Final Fantasy, that I met later in high school as well. And so the theme of life and death really hits home, really hits hard. And every subsequent playthrough brings joy and sadness for other reasons now. And I'll never forget, it's really funny. I named Aerith after my mom. You can see where this is going. My dad walks in. This is probably 1998, 1999. And he sits down, and this was right before she gets stabbed. Spoiler alert. Sorry, guys. And I said, and it's the first time I'd seen it. This first time I'd gotten that far in the game. And my dad sees it and he goes, "Ha, what was her name?" And I told him, and he goes, "Actually, that's kind of funny." And then he walks, and I'll never forget, that's the only time my dad would ever sit down and watch games after he saw that moment, because it became like an inside joke between him and my mom. Like, "Hey, remember the time you got stabbed on our son's stupid game?" Yeah. So, but no, Final Fantasy VII, it's, I remember, and it's weird, like you said, Vinny, how you can remember specific details when things happened. I remember the smell of the air when that trailer dropped for 7 Remake at E3. I remember how cold it was in the house. I remember what I was wearing. I remember my wife was sitting upstairs streaming the event, and I was downstairs playing something, or I had just turned off my PlayStation 3, and my wife screamed, "Hey, you should check this out." And as soon as I realized what was happening, I ran upstairs, I watched the trailer, and she kept saying, "Is this what I think it is?" I'm like, "Shut up! Shut your mouth! You sit there and you shut up!" Like, I lost my mind, absolutely lost my mind, and I was hyped for years. And you had mentioned the fake trailer, or when you guys mentioned the trailer when the tech demo that dropped in 2005. Hey, it only took 10 years to get the real trailer, right? It only took 10 years. I mean, I was so hyped, man. That was around the time that what was it? shortly after that tech demo dropped, I think, was it Advent Children that came out?
Yeah, they announced the compilation.
Yeah, and I was hyped for that. I'm still hyped. Like, I could have a bad day, guys, and I can think of a random save file or a random spot in the game, and then just get lost in thought. Final Fantasy, there's no other game that does that to me, and I love it. I love a game. Don't tell my wife; she'll be mad. She gets jealous.
I remember watching Advent Children for the first time, and the way I got my hands on the DVD was when Netflix Netflix first came out, and there was no it wasn't streaming. Like, you had to go on the Netflix website and say, I want this DVD, and they'd be like, okay, we have one, we're gonna mail it to you. And they mail it to you, and then you open it up, you put it in, you watch it, and they're like, all right, we want it back, and then you send it back to Netflix. That's how I was able to watch it. And it was like that, it seems so archaic, like Blockbuster now, but that's how it was.
Somebody that I knew had got their hands on an AVI file, a 240p AVI file with really blurry subtitles. And he's like, man, you gotta come watch this. I got it. So I go over to his house and I watch it, and I'm like, you could barely read the subtitles. It's super pixelated. And I'm thinking, this is awesome. But I'm thinking, man, what the hell is happening on this screen? But I
read.
What's actually really...
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Danny.
No, I was just gonna say, go ahead, man. Share your Final Fantasy VII story.
I just want to piggyback on the Advent Children thing real fast. So my first job was in retail. I worked electronics at Walmart. Great time, So I know firsthand that a lot of workers in these, especially electronics or whatever, if something comes out, but they're on a shift, they don't have the money or whatever, they can't get it right then, they'll hide it, behind something else so they can go back. So there will definitely be one left when they come back to buy it. Because I used to do that all the time with albums and stuff. So when Advent Children came out, me and my brother, we went to Target. I'm pretty positive it was Target. Well, we went to all the stores. We went to Walmart, Kmart, which of course didn't have it because it's Kmart. And then we went to Target, and they were all out, and it's we were so upset. And then but this band, one of my favorite bands, Taking Back Sunday, had just released an album too. So I was like, all right, well, at least I can go look and buy my album. And I noticed that the stack of the albums was a little higher than the one next to it. So I lifted under it, and someone had put a copy of Advent Children under these CDs. So I was like, that's the God's way of telling me I was meant to have this freaking copy. And also, that worker was probably so pissed when he went back for his stash. Yeah. Man, I'll never forget that. I was so excited. That was actually, while we were there, we also bought the remember VHSs? We also bought, I think, the VHS of Dragon Ball Z where Goku goes Super Saiyan 3 for the first time, and the box art was actually orange for once. What a day it was. Movie, album, Dragon Ball Z movie. Great times. I was introduced to JRPGs by a good friend of mine named Daniel Matthijs. He actually has a YouTube as well. So I need to plug him at some point. Yeah. He's my nerd sensei, as I call him. But when I was a little kid, I would go over his house. He was a few years older than me, and he'd play Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. He let me borrow Mystic Quest. He was like, "This is how you'll get into it." Played that. I would go over there and just watch him play Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy III, Super Mario RPG. That's how I got into that. And we'd play Secret of Mana together all the time. And then, so I got super infatuated with these RPGs, and my brother, I got him into it. And so when I was 7, it was right before 7 came out, my buddy Danny moved. So, obviously it's a huge bummer and everything, and my birthday was coming up. So, and I went to my other friend's house. He was telling me, he's like, have you seen the demo for the new Final Fantasy game? It's like, no. And he showed it to me, and I was expecting like sprites, you know, like Final Fantasy, like the Super Nintendo versions and everything. And then when it pans to where you see the like the Maka reactor, and it's just it's like, this is like, that's game changing right there. I will never forget the first time I ever saw that. And so on my birthday, I obviously I got it, and you know, just kind of in memory of my buddy who got me into it in the first place. Like, we would kind of email back, you know, back in the primitive days of AOL and stuff, back and forth about the game and how we liked it and stuff. And it was just like, it was so cool. I loved it so much. And it's kind of at a point in my life where, you know, I had an older brother, and I was in a Navy military or Navy housing and all that stuff. So the social dynamic was pretty intense at times, especially, you know, when there's an older crowd that's always going to give you grief and stuff. So I loved having like my own little adventure and everything, you know, and there's just so much to it. And I loved just everything about it, and how you can explore just like the old Final Fantasies with the you know, the airship and everything like that. And it was such a good game, in fact, that I was, I think, 23 years old before I ever beat it. I would always get to the crater, the North Crater. I would fight through to the last Genova, and then I would stop, and then I'd restart.
You just couldn't bring yourself to complete the game?
I didn't want it to end. Yeah, I didn't want it to end.
Wow.
I didn't want that finality, because it's kind of like something that was like open to me for so long. You know what I mean? It always kind of kept it on my mind. And then once I beat it, you know, I didn't play it again for like 3 or 4 years. So it's like almost, and then, you know, went back and beat it again like in 2 days. But yeah, no, I had to have every material combination. I had to have every, you know, cast combination, character combination, you know, every decision storyline, you know. Got to take Aerith out, got Gold Saucer, got to take Barrett out and Gold Saucer, you know. It's just one of those things that I could just like actually like be completely absorbed in, because when you're a kid and you see all these movies about like adventures and stuff like that, you want to be a part of that. You want to like have your own thing. So when Final Fantasy VII came out, it was like the newest, it was like crazy high tech, you know. It's like no one had ever seen anything like it before. And like just being able to experience that for the first time, and so, like, you're kind of like going on an adventure with like a whole generation of gamers. You know, you're not behind this time. You know, it's not someone showing you the game. You're like playing it right when it comes out, you know, kind of like a pioneer kind of thing. I love that.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that story as well. Man, that's almost like, it's almost it's just so impactful. Like you just get all the way to the end, and then you just can't get yourself to complete the story, and then just restart.
Hits the reset button.
It's like, it's not even like something like you would say, oh man, well that sucks. It's in this instance, it's interesting.
No, dude, I loved,
like, wow, that makes,
I would love doing the first reactor, and basically I would usually get to like the sewers, and then I go to save, and I go right over that North Crater game and save over, and it felt so good every time.
Wow. And then once you beat the game, it takes you several years to get yourself. You had that conclusion. You're good.
Yeah, like I said, I was like 23, and I was like actually like emotional when I actually beat it, because it's like And what's funny is that kind of carried over to like other games I played too, like RPGs I would play, like Suikoden games, Breath of Fire games, like, and it all started with Final Fantasy, where it's like I can't even bring myself to just beat it. Like when I see the end credits roll, it's like I don't know, something about it just gets me.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to share one of my favorite Final Fantasy memories, and it's a video. So I'm going to bring this up here for everybody to see, just for, I think, the first like 5 minutes of this 30 or 40 minute long reaction video that my wife recorded.
I was expecting it just to be like you dressed as Cloud doing the Macarena for like 10 minutes.
I do have
just let me know what you guys think. Just let me know what you guys think.
We got Barrett. Actually, I need that sound bite where I could just play it whenever Macarena is brought up.
We have we have the technology.
We really do.
All right, you guys can see it.
No, I remember this.
Yeah. I think I said audio. Let me make sure I said audio real quick before I play it. There we go. Share computer audio. Here we go. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. This is before I start, I would like to set it up where this was when Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced. I was extremely sick. Like you guys talk about being able to taste and smell and just remember everything that was going on. I do too. And man, I was so sick. I had a extremely sore throat, and just feeling completely rough. And I'm watching this conference, and then I swear to God, I don't have the reaction video of me watching it. This is right after I finished watching the trailer, and my wife's noticed how like just extremely excited I was, and she just brought out a camera. I didn't know she was filming until a little bit later. The first thing I had to do, like, I don't know, I just immediately called my mom. I immediately called my mom. Mind you, I'm already like extremely sick, and mom knows I'm extremely sick. So me calling mom has her very worried at the beginning of this video. So here we go. Ready?
Oh my God. No, Mom, you gotta answer.
They did it!
Oh my God. Great song.
Yeah, I don't know what they were showing afterwards. Yeah,
Mom!
Please welcome Andrew.
Mom, they did it! They did it, Mom! They did it!
Good evening, everyone.
Final Fantasy VII Remake!
He's probably like, what?
You just almost made me pass out.
No, Mom, no, Mom. Final Fantasy VII Remake!
Okay, thank God. Okay.
Mom, they did it!
Oh my God.
It's okay, nothing's wrong. Nothing, everything is right in the world.
I'm dying, but they did it.
Mom!
They did it, Mom.
That's good, Danny.
I'm so high on endorphins.
I'm happy.
Meatloaf.
Oh God.
Might I say, just for the viewers out there that are actually not viewing and listening to this, I just want to say that Mr. Danny over here has aged very gracefully in the past 5 years.
Hey, man, you know, thank you for
throw that out there.
Right.
I mean, granted, he was definitely sick in that video and probably hadn't eaten for like 48 hours, but let's just he is, man, you were like a fine wine, much like Final Fantasy VII. Gets better with age. Let's go with that. Let's go with that.
Not too shabby yourself, sir. Thank you guys. Wow.
Osby is programming his new game, Daniel Fantasy VII.
Oh man,
Daniel Fantasy VII.
Joke's on you.
Yes.
Yeah. Joke's on you. You will get exclusive early access.
Early.
Ooh, girl, bring it on.
No, let me tell you, man. That was such an amazing moment for me. I was so excited. You can watch the full 30-45 minute video. I'll put the link in the description if you feel like
I remember
it.
you put that up like way back when. Oh man, that just made me laugh so hard because I see you at that age and just remember like Game Night League and all that stuff too.
Yes,
it's just so funny.
Yep, I started Game Night League shortly after that. Yep. That was that was awesome. That was actually the first video. I think I like created YouTube so I could post it because I was like, the world needs to know.
Then I called my mom.
So I called my mom. Then I called like multiple friends afterwards. Just so they're like, okay, man, sure.
I called my best friend right after it aired, and I had a very similar conversation. It's like, Tyler, they did it!
They did it!
They did it! And he's like, what? I'm at work. What? And I said, Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I just hear him go absolutely insane over the phone. I think he actually got fired because of his reaction from that.
One of the people I called Barry, and I called him and I was like, oh my God, Final Fantasy VII Remake. His reaction was, oh, everything is right. Just like, It's
What's
great. The
funny is,
reactions that I get from my friends in that video are great too.
I used to, I think I've told you a story, like me and my brother were like competitive over who could play Final Fantasy VII when and all that, because we only had one PlayStation. But it's just so funny as like we've grown up and stuff, as much as we both were just infatuated with that game, like we would physically fight over whose turn it was to play Final Fantasy VII. I just remember like when I saw the announcement and the trailer and everything, I called him, and he's a Marine now, and he's like the most like level-headed person, very much just like dry, all that stuff, not anything like me. So it's like I call him, it's like, right, it's like the same thing. It's like, oh my god, dude, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, and his reaction was like, oh really, that is pretty neat.
That's
like,
pretty neat.
Give me
Years of
something,
training.
man. Give me something. I'm dying.
That's
here.
pretty neat.
Yeah, he's like, that is pretty cool. He does that thing where he like accentuates the C. He's like, that is pretty cool. Like, all right, yeah, well, all right.
No, I don't think you understand. I'm gonna hang up the phone and call you back, and then see if we get a different reaction.
Yeah, I probably would get a more animated response from my mom. She'd be like, "You two better not fight over this one." Like, we live in different houses, Mom. We have our own consoles.
All right, man, you guys. So the things that made Final Fantasy VII special. There is a lot of things that made Final Fantasy special. I'd like to touch on a few of these subjects here. And we're just gonna I'll have a question here and there. You guys chime in. The characters of Final Fantasy VII. Diverse cast, a very diverse cast. I think that makes 7 so unique and special. Final Fantasy VI and other Final Fantasies have certainly had diversity within their cast, but when it comes to 7, I think you touch on pretty much, if not all, cultural influences and with each character in the game. They all represent a certain culture, and I think that in itself is really special and important. So what do you guys think of the cast of Final Fantasy VII, the characters? Who's your go-to party members? Vinny had a really cool question that he asked in the pre-show, so if you want to ask that one again, go for it. For me, my go-to party members, I'll go ahead and answer that, is obviously you gotta have Cloud. It was always Cloud, Barrett, and Red 13. Those were my characters when I first started playing Final Fantasy when I was 7, and on from there, because Cloud was Sean, and then Barrett was Badaz. That would be badass, but yeah, Sean shortened it for me, so my 7-year-old self wasn't running around saying badass. So it's Badaz, and Scooter was our pet at the time. So Red 13 was Scooter. So yeah, that was my party that I always went to. But of course, after playing it like 100 or so times, you start switching it up a little bit. But go ahead, guys. Osby, what's your go-to, man?
So I early in life, when Final Fantasy VII first came out, it was always Cloud. It was Barrett, and sprinkle in Sid a little bit, and Vincent, and definitely Red 13. Get all the dudes, all the we're
it's a boy dance party.
It was a boy dance party, Final Fantasy 15 before it ever happened. But then later in life,
you start meeting girls.
Start surrounding Cloud with the ladies, and it was, for a little while, it was Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith, until you couldn't do that anymore. And then we would just, subtly replace Aerith with what, Yuffie? Yeah. So I mean,
I always named Aerith and Tifa the two girls that I liked in school. And then
the thought and one then, and thought two.
Yeah, and Aerith was always the girl that I didn't think I was ever going to get with. So
so the first time that happened, you're like, this is divine intervention. This is
yeah.
You're like telling her, going to school, telling her to avoid chapels. What are you doing? Got a bad feeling about your Sunday service.
So my party, I guess, I've always been like a like a have the most powerful party type of person, or even when I was younger, I just wanted like
Max.
Yeah, I was that kid, the one who spent all of his time in the sunken Galinka, turning everybody into power sources and stuff to max out those stats. So my party was actually always, because Cloud had to be in there, but I still liked his ultimate weapon. So because I'm huge into swords, and I thought his weapons always looked so cool. So I had Cloud, I had Yuffie, because Doom of the Living is like the most powerful thing in that game. And it's a lot shorter than Knights of the Round. And then Kate Sith, because I really liked that gamble when I would use his limit break and be like, all right, so I can either, instantly win or instantly die. I liked that gamble with his limit break. One-shotting Emerald Weapon without using Vincent is pretty fun. So yeah, my party was Cloud, Yuffie, and Kate Sith. Then when I got older, I really started appreciating Sid as a character. And when I had him I kept him in my party one time for a really long time. And then I started unlocking his limit breaks, and I, realized he's like on par with Yuffie with how many times he gets to attack. And then that led me to seeing more of his dialogue. And he was such an angry 20-year-old or 30-year-old. Like I thought he was in his like late 50s, early 60s and everything. With how he spoke to them like they were children, and he turns out to be like 28 in the game.
He's just seen some shit.
Yeah, I was like, if I were ever to like go on a journey to like find myself, like Sid would be the person there guiding me. But in his like, in his like, you're a dumbass kind of,
Somebody set you straight.
Yeah.
Sid's the voice on your GPS, right?
Yes. That's what we want, man.
Take a left, dumbass.
Make a goddamn right.
Oh no.
And drink your tea. Reed, what's your go-to?
So in the early days, for me and my brother both, it was always Tifa and Red. Just because Invincible Moon by Red was just so OP at the time. Yeah, and I always use Tifa just because the plot, just because she's like a central character. And then I don't know, the variation I found, I'm also like the kind of person where I usually have like, when I build my main characters in games, they always have to be like balanced. So when I build my teams, they have to be like super balanced. So I like, my new go-to was like, I'd have to have a casting character, like a mage. I'd have to have an agility character for like all my yellow materia, and then I'd have like a tank basically. So the one that I ended up going with that I loved the most was Cloud as my tank, Vincent as my caster, and Yuffie as my Agi character. And that, oh man, I had so much fun with that one. Just like Vinny was saying, just load up on speed sources on Yuffie, and like you get like 30 steals like per fight before like anyone actually dies. But I mean, Vincent was always like one of my favorite characters ever, just because it's like brooding and transforms and stuff. He's basically like Hojo. He's the antithesis of Hojo, and I think that's why I always liked him so much. Because like in another universe or whatever, he could have been like Sephiroth's dad or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Lucretia storyline and all that stuff. Oh, he had a cool story and everything. So
he did. He had a really cool backstory.
He also turned into Jason Voorhees for a limit break. So
yes, he did.
Jason with a chainsaw.
It was what, Jason, and was there a Frankenstein?
It was Frankenstein, some purple werewolf thing with horns.
Yeah,
and then Satan.
Cerberus or
Gigabeast,
not
right?
Cer-
Was it Giga?
Yeah, Gigabeast.
Gigabeast, Hellmasker, and can't remember what the last one was called. It was Gigabeast, Hellmasker, whatever. Somebody say it in the
gotcha.
comments.
Yeah, somebody will get us.
Yeah.
Comments down below, baby. Do it.
we gotta get that "you're wrong" thing, like Kind of Funny.
Yeah,
does.
that's right.
But no, Vincent was cool. Did you guys ever like do Vincent's exploit to just kind of like kill everything in one shot?
No.
So
Please elaborate.
Oh, chaos.
so-
Chaos is his ultimate.
Oh, chaos. That's the
Duh.
last one. Yeah. I don't remember what the Frankenstein one is called. Hellmasker was Jason. Giga Beast was the first, like the purple wolf thing. Chaos. And then somebody's gonna let us know in the comments.
People
Probably.
watching, there's somebody watching right now, like it's this. Oh,
Galleon Beast, Death Gigas,
Oh, okay.
Hellmasker, Chaos. There we go.
But yeah, so because I tried to do all challenges with Final Fantasy VII, and one of them was like if you kill, it's like 3.7 million creatures with just Vincent, his death penalty once it breaks the code, and his death penalty breaks the damage limit, and it just if he shoots something, it'll kill them in one shot. So I did that to Ruby and Emerald, and I was just like, "This is sweet." I was like, "This is sweet." I put
You committed a genocide.
I did. It's in the 3 millions, I believe, but it's some like insane number of monsters that you have to kill with just Vincent. So I loaded him up with I put enemy skill on him and just went to this one place where you fight like I think it's like 5 or 6 little tiny things of like carrots. They're like really stupid looking things. And
was it Tetramaster? Is that what you used?
No, I used enemy skill and beta.
That beta, that's what I meant. Yeah, my bad. I'm getting words mixed up in my messed up head. Hey.
And I just did that for like days to get to 3 million. And I knew that because I would test it because I had his death penalty, and I would go and fight a boss and shoot it. And if it didn't die in one shot, I'm like, all right, gotta reload and go back and continue killing stuff. So once I think I can't remember what the boss was. I think who was it? I don't know. I'll find out and I'll let you guys know. But yeah, that's what I did with Vincent. And wow, because I looked something up because I always thought Yuffie was the most powerful character, and then somebody was just like, no, it's Kate Sith because of his limit break, and I was like, yeah, but that like rarely ever happens. And then there's also the chance of you get like the bar. It's like bar, and then your whole entire team just dies. There's no stopping it whatsoever. I was like, oh, that's so random. And then this other person was just like, Vincent, if you do the right type of thing, you can kill anything in one shot. And I was like, okay, cool. I want to try that. And then I regretted
You have to kill 3 million.
Yeah, 3 million things, and then you can one shot whatever you want. I was like, I could have just finished the game fast.
No, just finish the game.
A lot faster. It's
So
a millions of thousand.
So are those the only 2 known ways to one shot Ruby and Emerald with Kate Sith and Vincent's limit breaks?
The only like without like using a Game Shark or anything, yeah, those are because I hit Ruby, instantly killed him. I hit Emerald, instantly killed him, and then I tried the Kate Sith thing. Kate Sith has to go in by himself, or else Ruby will completely obliterate you guys. Well, more than likely he's gonna obliterate you. But yeah, the Kate Sith thing, trying to one shot with Kate Sith, that took me like 8 hours straight of just trying to get that limit break to proc. But
just beat Emerald Weapon that way.
it's not worth it, but it's fun.
It's cool that you do all these challenges though. Like it makes for really fun conversations here. You know, a lot of people who are watching may not know these things, so that's
the Ruby weapon strat. And I mean, I always had to beat Emerald and Ruby without Knights of the Round, even though I'd always have Knights of the Round. But if I wanted to watch a 20-minute cinematic, I'd throw on an episode of a TV show or something. But
make a PB and J.
But yeah, you just start Ruby weapon with 2 of your characters dead, and then you set final summon Phoenix, and then you just Hades the tentacles, and then you basically just pound away at him.
See,
I don't know if someone had a better strategy than that, but that was a tried and true way I always did it.
So what I did for Ruby was I made Cloud go in by himself. Well, besides that, I made Cloud go in by himself, and then I had Hades attached with Elemental on Cloud's weapon, and every time Cloud hit Ruby, it cast stop on him. So I was just, you know, hitting him a whole bunch of times. He never was able to retaliate. And then,
did it work on the tentacles too, though? That's the question, because like if you use the summon outright, I think it hits him and the tentacles.
See, when I go in by myself, Ruby doesn't cast his tentacles.
If you go in with one person,
yeah,
right?
He doesn't, because he doesn't swipe them away at the start of the fight.
Well, his tentacles don't go into the ground if you're by yourself. He stays upright. Or at least every time I did it on, I don't think I've tried it on the.
It's been a minute, man. I
remaster,
gotta go back and kill Ruby
So
Weapon
I
again.
had an interesting strategy. It's not as intricate as some of the ones that you guys mentioned, but those hero drinks, baby.
Oh yeah.
W item. You throw like 40 hero drinks on Cloud by himself, and Ruby Weapon smacks you, and it does like 1 damage. You know how much fun it is to sit there and just watch him just ping you away for 1 damage, and you just like, what was that, 4 times cut and just carve him up, man.
Yeah. 4 times cut.
Sephiroth, or Safer Sephiroth uses Supernova on you, and it's just like 1, 1, 1, 1. You can drop the solar system on me.
Man, now hold on.
Yes.
See, I know this is getting off track, but that supernova, how many times can you really destroy the galaxy before it's too much? Because after you do it once,
destroys it and then creates,
and then you do it again, it's like he creates it again.
Yeah,
it's like it's counterproductive.
Speaking of Sephiroth, this is a good segue into the next topic. The iconic villain is another very special feature about Final Fantasy VII. The iconic villain, Sephiroth is, if not the most iconic villain in all video games, I would say. Like, I mean, I know that we're pretty biased here, but I think that if you're a gamer, I think you know who Sephiroth is. You know what I mean? Like, even if you've never played that's an awesome figure. Even if you've never played Final Fantasy VII, I think you'd know who Sephiroth is. The iconic imagery that surrounds Sephiroth also complements this villain, where he's walking through the fire. He's pulling Genova, just so many. And then, of course, he's surrounded by One Winged Angel, one of the best video game songs of all time. And I think he's got so much. When they went to go develop this, they were like, how do we make the greatest villain of all time for this?
What actually makes him so great is like the way they tease him for like the first.
Yes, Jaws style, right?
Like you always like feel his presence, especially like early on when Cloud's like having his his like migraines or whatever, like his crazy flashbacks, whatever. But like,
and it's like,
and then you go in, and then you go into Shinra and you see Genova, and then you see, and then you see this, and then you see the iconic shot of of President Shinra with the sword in his back, and you're just like, all right, like. Shit's getting real now.
Then you see the snake on the spike.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah, man, it's so awesome. And then you have the clones that are kind of walking around and they're all just murmuring his name, Sephiroth, and you know, like, and you're just like, oh man, it's just so cool. Like, but you know, by the time you actually see him, but of course, you know, we're all aware that Sephiroth is not like the villain. I mean, Genova is, but
I loved those little cloaked guys because I always knew I got a little treat every time one of them, like, you'd talk to them and be like, oh, cool, this guy turned into a power source.
Yeah.
I'll fight you over your Genova theory.
What, about what? That she's like the actual villain, or?
Mm-hmm. I'll fight you over that.
I mean, I'm just talking about how she was using Sephiroth's body as a.
I know.
She manipulates Cloud into reawakening Sephiroth.
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely 100% on the side that Sephiroth is the villain of this story and should remain the villain of the story in Remake, like at all times. Like, you have the most iconic villain.
I mean, Hojo's up there pretty high on that list too.
Yeah,
Hojo is responsible for a majority of it all. Yeah.
I'll fight you, baby. Let's do it.
I mean, I'm not going to fight. I'm listen.
Hojo's in some pretty weird stuff. He's a sick dude.
Yeah, man. God. So, like, yeah. I mean, not only just Sephiroth, but all the other villains, man. Yeah. President Shinra,
what's actually crazy.
Rufus.
Yeah, what's crazy is like the three biggest, like really the three core antagonists of the the whole game are just Sephiroth and his parents. Like Sephiroth,
family.
Hojo, and Jenova. Yeah, could you imagine like that family portrait? But it's like it's Hojo after he's transformed, and it's like Jenova and like the when you're going to like Coast to Sol, where you get the Ifrit material, like that blob, the form she's in the boat. It's like just her in that form.
That's Genova Birth, right?
Yeah, it goes like birth, like regeneration, rebirth, and Genesis, I think, is the last one.
I think no,
Death,
it's like
right?
Genova Death. Yeah, it's Genova Death.
I thought Genesis was the last one.
But yeah,
I think you're right. I think you're right about that. I think actually Genova Death is the Coast to Sol one.
Shout out to the comments down below. Someone will tell us.
I'm checking right now.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so Genova, Sephiroth, and then Shinra, all these iconic villains, just make up the game. I mean, that's awesome. Do you guys have any comments on the villains, or we anything? Any favorite moments besides Sephiroth killing Aerith?
Well,
if that's a favorite moment.
Why you just gotta whip it out like that, man? I mean,
or killing Reed. No, we replaced Aerith.
Yeah, man. I was hanging in.
So first, I don't think Hojo is a good or bad guy. Hojo just kind of seems like he's just a lunatic who wants to do whatever he can. Like he seems like he's the type of person where he's like, you know, I can do this with science. You know, like one of the, you know, that like that cliche thing, like, you know, you asked if you could, but you never asked if you should type of deal. Like he just wanted to like make science experiments and he wanted to find the promised land just because of the scientific data he would get from it. Like I don't think he really cared if Shinra prospered, if the world prospered. He was just only out for himself, and we were just in the way. If we never got in his way, he would have never fought us. But like, you know, I feel like he's not like a good or a bad guy. He just is a mad scientist. You know,
scientist. You ever noticed Final Fantasy VII's like infatuation with 3? Like there's always a trio or of something. So like the trio of villains, you know, Sephiroth, Genova, and Shinra.
And Genova has 3 forms.
3 forms. A love triangle, which we'll get into the next one, next topic. It's a lot of 3s, and then of course 7s. 3s and 7s are they're just kind of fascinated with it during the game. So you can kind of, it's like the number 23 or something like with this game. Like you kind of see it in a lot of things once you start thinking about it. Let's talk about the unreliable narrator. Cloud cannot be trusted by the player, which is
lying through his teeth for so much of the game.
That's what makes it so like exciting and interesting at first. You know, you're just kind of like, wait, what? What's going on? It like almost forces the player to say, I got to play that again. I got to see now that I know. It's like one of these a really cool mystery, and once it all comes together at the end, or at least in the live stream, you're just like, oh, that's, you know, and then you go back and you play it and you kind of see it, and I really think that's awesome. The unreliable narrator. Cloud cannot be trusted by the player, which is something unique, I think, to this game. What do you guys think?
At this point in time, in 1997, it was unique. Now, yeah, I feel like a lot of people have done that since then. But
well, if you've ever read Ice and Fire, it's a whole series of unreliable narrators. But Final Fantasy VII was what actually kind of kills me. What cracks me up is with 7 is like the reveal of it all. And I don't want to rabbit hole this too much, but it's something that cracks me up. Like, just, you know, how I make stupid jokes to myself. Like how embarrassing it must have been for Cloud, like when Tifa like goes in his mind and sees all these like embarrassing memories. Well, they're not even really embarrassing, the ones that they show, but what if she like actually saw some like really embarrassing shit like while she was in his mind, and they come out, there's like, we will not talk about that.
We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about me in your room.
Find that underwear, you know.
Yeah, it's like mom walks in and fapping or something.
Are these Tifa's pantaloons?
Yeah, exactly.
We're not talking about all of that, all right?
Right. Just the what's the obliterate the facade. I just
Another.
So
Oh, go ahead, Vinny. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
well, you said like, the player can't trust Cloud, and like that's what I felt like for a good portion of the game. And then the way you realize, like, I always thought, because it was text based and everything, like when the screen is black and Cloud is talking to somebody in his own mind, I thought that was his own conscience.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, no, it's actually Genova who's talking to him, and that just like amplified how much, like, how diabolical of a end game boss Genova actually is. Like, she's an alien, came from space, came down here. Her cells got put into the life stream, which means like she basically has, like that hollow earth theory where, like, you can go from like Tokyo to America in like 15 minutes through like underwater tunnels and all that stuff. Like, that's like that was like the life stream for her. So like, she was just able to infect basically the entire world. And then, Sephiroth was her vessel. And it just, like, when you realize, like, okay, the narrator is actually the bad guy, and that's why you're so confused, because you have the person who you're trying to beat telling you what's going on in your own mind. So it's obviously going to like throw you off. Genova got into the mind of her enemies, and she was just, she fought you a couple of times as a blob.
As a blob.
As a blob. Like, when Sephiroth drops her in the cargo ship, she just looks like a tentacle. So I always just assumed that he was just like breaking off pieces of her and just like throwing them at you and be like, all right, go fight her like left tentacle now. And like it turns into that.
Oops, I dropped it.
It is all like pieces
like,
of her, right? And then they're all trying to be reunited.
Yeah.
Reunion is another big theme.
Yeah. But yeah, so when the unreliable narrator, it's like, no, to me, like, it was a reliable narrator because the narrator achieved what it wanted to achieve, and that was mass confusion. And I was confused through a good portion of the game. Every time something got pieced together, it's like, no, the narrator was good. The narrator did what it set out to do, and it was to confuse Cloud and, collaterally you as the player. So
it's a cool way to look at it.
Well achieved.
It's not unreliable. It's very it did exactly what it wanted to do.
The first time you get a North Crater, I'll never forget the first time I saw it as a kid. I mean, there's so many moments in this game where it's like the first time you see it, you'll never forget it. Like Diamond Weapon destroying, Rufus, like. But when you go to North Crater and you free Sephiroth, and they're basically just saying, you're not Cloud, you're not even a real person, all that stuff, like for a second I bought it, I was like expecting to be like, no, your name's Hank, we just like picked you up off the street, like yeah, exactly. And then it's
name Hank.
Yeah, you actually don't know what to believe, especially when you're like an 8-year-old kid, and you're just like, yeah, it's mind-blowing, because I mean, you look at the audience of these games, it's younger people, we're 30 years old now, and we're critically like, analytically breaking down the game that 20 years ago blew our minds, So it's taken us 20 years to process all the things we saw. So it's, I mean, just as far as I just want to point out again, like, just how crazy and numerous like the twists and turns are. So nothing's reliable in the game until you beat it.
So I just want to say something before we lose it, because Reed brought up Diamond Weapon. Two things. One, I want to be able to fight Sapphire Weapon, because it kind of just, you see it get its head blown off.
Yeah.
I would have loved to at least try and fight it before it gets its head blown off or something. And then also, I think I might be remembering this incorrectly, but in the cutscene, don't they show a lot, like there are like maybe 1 or 2 weapons that you actually see, but you don't actually get to fight or see them in the game? Like, I'm pretty sure there was like 2 other colors of weapons that you saw come out of the Northern Crater, and you don't see them. Like, maybe they're cut content or something, but like, I'll look it up, but more weapons would be cool.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
I think
I'm gonna look at
I
it.
remember that.
There was
there's Ultima, Omega, Diamond, Sapphire, Emerald, Ruby.
there's another
Um,
weapon that was starts with a Z, I think, and it's like its whole purpose is to like completely just reset the world. I think it was. It was in what was it, Before Crisis? The
Does
mobile
it
game.
whisper?
Oh God. there's the other weapon right there. It could be actually, I don't know.
Brat Man.
But yeah, I think I can't remember what it's called. Like the whole point of the first or of Before Crisis was about bringing this weapon into play.
So actually, I have something here right now. The weapons that are listed for Final Fantasy VII are Sapphire Weapon, Ultimate Ultima Weapon, Diamond Weapon, Ruby Weapon, Emerald Weapon, Jade Weapon, which kind of looks like a kite, Omega Weapon, and Chaos.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Chaos.
Because Vincent is the incarnate of a weapon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's what I found so far. But that Jade Weapon actually has a it looks like it actually has a character model for Final Fantasy VII original, like even outside of Before Crisis. So that would be really cool if we had more weapons to fight.
It's the ultimate summon. Zerconic Aid. Let me go. This guy. That was the Before Crisis. It's the ultimate summon, also called the World Burner. So
show it again real fast.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I've mistaken that for a weapon, but it's.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So
Jade
that's the
Weapon
ultimate
basically just looks like Starscream. He looks like a jet, a jet with antlers or arms.
Let's talk about the world of Final Fantasy VII. Another just iconic thing about this game. The world itself, the beauty of a gated open world for me. You start in a very, very, very linear Midgar. And I think it's obviously on purpose. You start this very linear experience, and then when you get to step outside of Midgar, when you finally escape and the world opens up to you, it invokes this feeling of discovery and exploration right after 5 hours of play, and then you're just like, oh my god, kind of like I would say reminiscent of Final Fantasy I, where you get to the bridge and then it's like, and thus the journey begins, or something like that, and the world is now your oyster type thing, you know what I mean? I thought that was so good. So you walk outside of Midgar and you have this huge open world to explore. At least it feels huge at first. You're just like, you could run around. You got the Chocobo farm, this area that, oh my god, there's this giant snake and I can't go in there. You're discovering things like, oh man, that'll kill me in one shot. I got to get out of there. You get Chocobos and you can kind of just, have a mount and you can explore this area, but then it starts opening up even further. Like you get to the next side of, you go to Junin, you travel across an ocean to another continent, and you're like, there's part of the continent that I can't explore. I have to get something. I can go through rivers, and then
but wait, there's more.
And you constantly discover in this game. You constantly feel like you're earning a new way of discovery, like getting the tiny Bronco, and then getting the dune buggy, getting the
submarine.
You go underwater in this game, like you can go in the submarine and explore down there. Just really cool little hidden things that you can get throughout this entire. So you have land, sea, sky. It's all there, and chocobos, cars, a ship, a plane. A plane that can only float, submarines, an airship eventually at the end. It's always this sense of discovery in the game, and I think that is also what really is ingrained in a lot of people's mind. Like you said earlier when you were talking about seeing the Northern Crater for the first time, and you're just like, that was a moment because you had the means to do it and you had never seen it. It was in the world the whole time. Like it was always there. And then now you can actually go there. And I think it's just so cool. And even that you can see it at some point, but you can't go in until you get the dome blown off. You know what I mean? But yeah, so always a sense of discovery with this world. I want to ask you guys, what's your favorite location? And what's your least favorite location? For me, favorite location. Actually, no, come back to me. So I'm gonna put somebody else on the spot. Let's go with let's start with Reed this time.
Oh man, so much pressure.
I know,
right? Favorite place, probably Cosmo Canyon.
I love the soundtrack for that, man.
The music, like the tribal kind of atmosphere, and like I love like Red's story arc. Like it's actually kind of quick, because you kind of go from Midgar and you get to Cosmo Canyon's not that far away in the game, but it's just like you learn like about his lineage and all this kind of stuff, like what his people have like kind of fought against forever, and like obviously Bugenhagen is like the man. Like the man of infinite wisdom. In fact, I can't remember if it's a theory or if it's actually been confirmed or whatever. But he's like I can't remember exactly what, but he's like a godly figure incarnate. Bugenhagen, Red's grandfather. But yeah, I mean,
infinite wisdom there, man. He is like basically when I posted the where y'all sitting, I will get to that in a second. Like, of course, MJ Gallagher was like, that's my spot. If you want to know the lore of this world.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Cosmo Canyon, it's such a pivotal like location for knowing more about this world.
Yeah, and probably my least favorite place actually is Temple of the Ancients. Obviously the story that happens there is huge. It's just, as a kid, there are two things. First of all, it's so easy to get lost. Secondly, I had a Brady Games Prima strategy guide for Final Fantasy VII, and in the Temple of the Ancients section of the guide, it said it gave you a way that you could find Zack. That you could find and recruit Zack in the Temple of the Ancients. And I did this a million times, and I spent days and weeks and months on this and never found him.
That wasn't the strategy guide?
Yep, I still have it. And just for the sheer deception that I experienced as a result of that, I just kind of loathe it. But actually, I'm missing something very important also. Fort Condor. I love that mini game. God, I love that mini game.
Yeah, the strategy game.
Oh boy.
Yeah, the fight, like the little RTS sort of thing.
Yeah.
Playing it in 3 times speed and then trying to go back without 3 times speed, it's almost unbearable how slow those things move.
3 times speed makes everything. I love the original, but man, when you get that 3 times speed, I do not think that it's cheating or anything like that. So if you want to use that modifier, go for it. If you want to experience Final Fantasy VII for the first time or replay it, go for it without feeling any kind of guilt. Just don't turn on God mode or anything like that. You ruin the experience.
3 times speed for first timers will make battles a lot more
enjoyable.
Difficult.
It's intense. Yeah,
well, because you're sitting there trying to like think of an attack, and the enemy's just like bink, and you're just like, oh man, I'm almost dead.
I mean, you can always click the right stick. If you're in a battle and you need some time to think, just click the right stick. Give yourself a moment to think, and then click the right stick to speed up Knights of the Round.
Click the right stick is like just going to be like my new Daniel Hofflich t-shirt.
There it is. There's a catchphrase for every episode. I feel like I should start naming the episodes the catchphrase that we come up with.
We really should.
Click the right stick.
They'd all just be like Macarena 2, Macarena 3, Final Macarena.
The final Macarena, Macarena remake. You guys, let's go with Osby. What's your favorite location and your least favorite location, Osby?
I actually really like the Shinra Mansion. It's probably My favorite place to go in the game, because of the shrouded mystery, the mini game to open the safe, the mini game to recruit Vincent, the shenanigans, the backstory, coming back later in the game to unlock additional cutscenes, lots of neat, cool stuff in the Shinra Mansion.
Who remembers the code to the safe?
Oh my god.
It's
like if I was playing the game, I would literally be able to put this in.
I think it's like 45 10 63 97. So it's something like that.
Dude, 97 sounds a little too high. I think it's
now you guys are throwing in letter or numbers now, and I'm gonna get all messed up. I literally I have it. If I was playing the game and I was putting in the combination, I'd be able to put it in no problem. Like I've done it so many times.
10 is definitely a number. It's like left 10
45.
Yeah, it's like left 10, right.
Too many numbers.
45.
Too many numbers. It's gonna throw us off.
63. I can't remember the last one.
I thought it stopped at 60.
God dang it, guys! You guys are gonna make me. I have to look it up now. Just
no. I would actually say let's not look it up.
Okay.
Yet.
Okay, and then just see if it comes
if anyone's
to us.
watching. Yeah, if anyone's watching, see if it's posted. See if one of them can get it to us. And if not,
okay.
then look
Well,
it
I
up.
mean, anybody can easily just go look it up and then post it in the comments.
Okay.
You know?
But then
Just
we
like,
know
oh,
they're
look,
watching.
I got it.
Yeah.
So
oh god,
my least favorite location. There's a tie. I'll be very quick with both of them. When you're trying to ride the dolphin, on that jump on the beach, one 8-7-year-old me could not do that, and it was not okay. It was I didn't understand the depth and how that dolphin jump worked, and it was not fun. But yeah, Fort Condor can eat a bag of dicks as far as I'm concerned.
Sorry, Reed.
that mini game completely destroyed my my want and drive to even continue with a playthrough at one point. Not because it's, I don't know, man. It just felt so out of place, and I get it. I know why it's there, and I don't know, man. I'm just like, oh, stop.
Let's get so emotional.
I just get
stop,
so
man.
emotional.
I can't do it. Just no.
It's actually you could actually still succeed at Fort Condor if you just like if you don't put any like pieces down and you let the boss just walk right up to the thing and you fight him and you kill him. It's this sometimes I literally just let it run its course. I'll go like to the bathroom where I'll do something. I'll come back and I'll be like, all right, time to kill this thing, because sometimes I just don't want to deal with that rock, paper, scissors minigame.
Oh, no, man.
I never want to deal with it.
Oh man, it's so simple though. It's so simple. You just get your line of catapults, your defenders, and your fighters.
It's simple, but it's so long. It takes so long. Not as much as you think though, because if you take 3 times speed off and you see how slow they actually move, 3 times speed should be its normal speed.
Right. Yes,
you should be able to
exactly.
3 times speed your 3 times speed, because they move so slow.
I really hope that they expand that RTS minigame in the sequel. I would love to see
that.
it.
Also, I did look up the safe combination.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, so we knew that 36 was one of them. We knew that 10 was one of them. We know that the last number is it's like a 57 or a 97.
It's 97.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the 63 I was wrong on. It's 36, 10, 59, 97.
Gotcha. Okay. All right then. So we were figuring it out. We had like 3 of the numbers right.
Yeah.
It's like, I swear, man, like when you're in the game though, and like I get up to that safe, I would be able to just boop, 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 done.
Yep.
I got it. No problem.
Don't do that with 3 times speed either, because that always screwed me up.
Right.
It goes too
God.
fast. I always pass the number. I'm like, damn it.
Too bad it's not like or is it? Is it like Last of Us? Last of Us Part 2, when I was playing that game, if you do the old locker room trick where like if you put your ear up to it and you can hear the click when it gets to the number. So if you're playing like Last of Us 2, you could just go tick, 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 click and tick, 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 click, and like you can hear the subtle click, and then you can just put it in the number without having to find the clues. But anyways, that's Last of Us 2. So Vinny, did you go yet?
No, I did not.
What's your favorite location and least favorite?
So my most favorite It's really hard to tell between these two. I really like Wutai because I really like Japanese culture and architecture, and Wutai has like a lot of that. So like geographically, I really enjoy Wutai, and just being able to finish off Yuffie's character arc. But I think my favorite place in the game is probably the Icicle Inn area, where I mean, you have the snowboarding mini game, which I thought was like a lot of fun, which I'm still not great at. But if that was available like as an app on a phone, I would pay 99 cents for that and just play that all the time.
SSX tricky style mini game in the remake.
Yeah.
So fun.
But and then you have where you land in like some random place in this like frozen tundra, and you're timed because like there's just so many moving parts to that one area. Like you're timed because if you take too long, you succumb to frostbite and hypothermia and get sent back to that dude's house, and then you have to go again. And then there's just so many things there. Like you want to explore it multiple times. Like there's Alexander summon, which is the only way to put holy element on your weapons, and there's the circlet I think you could steal from one of the ice witches or whatever, and the circlet's really good if you have casters and everything. There's just so many moving parts to that one area in Icicle Inn. And then of course that's
the climb where you have to constantly keep jogging in place.
Yeah, you shake your arms and you're like cold and everything.
Shake your tail feather.
Click the R stick. To get up there faster.
Click the right stick.
Well, the times 3 speed, the times 3 makes your heat drop faster too. So it's kind of like, I would climb and then I would hit right stick to like make it like not times 3 and then like mash the X button so that like it goes up, and then I'll click right stick, and then that's where you fight Materia Keeper too, right? Yeah. So you learn Trine in that part of the game, which Trine was amazing.
It took me 20 years to find an item in as you're climbing the mountain and you go into the cave. There's an item that wasn't in any of the strategy guides. I think it's a ribbon. Is it ribbon? Yeah, ribbon. There's a ribbon hidden behind one of those false walls in that ice cave that I didn't know about, and I found it in my most recent playthrough, and I'm like,
you messaged me. He's like, "Yo, did you know this?"
I actually get to flex some Final Fantasy VII knowledge finally, but Materia Keeper is Mountain Nibel, isn't it?
Yeah, that's.
Oh, is it?
I remember.
Yeah. There's
boss was like one of the toughest when I was.
Trine.
Yeah.
Remember using Trine?
Yeah, Trine was cool.
Dude, that was actually really cool because he had like the separate slides and stuff.
I remember Materia Keeper being my first boss that was like just really gave me a hard time.
Like so, #gatekeeping.
The boss that I'm thinking of actually is Schizo, the 2-headed dragon that you fight in the cave.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, the ice and fire dragon
was a fun fight, and then also you get to fight icicles as an enemy.
Yes.
So the Icicle Inn area is, I don't know what else to call it besides that area because I don't know if it actually had a name. But that's probably my favorite. And believe it or not, my least favorite place is Midgar.
Wow. Okay.
It might just be because I've spent so much time in that one part of the game, like between getting Cloud to level 99 in Midgar and every time I used to start a new game file, it would, you have to go through Midgar. And then it was also the fact that you never could go back to Midgar. Like, plot relevance, you can go back, but then you can't go back after that again. Like, I've always wanted to be able to go back into Midgar and like do stuff in there again. So I just didn't like that I couldn't go back to Midgar. And I've spent so much time to where I have on my Xbox, my PlayStation, and on my phone and on my computer, I have a saved file. Everybody's at least level 37, and I save the second you can leave Midgar, and then that's where I create new game files from. Like I'll play that never gets overwritten.
Oh, so you all can always skip Midgar.
So I can always just
like, nah, man, I don't need Midgar.
I always skip Midgar now. I just start at level 37, and it's a perfect save file. Like everybody, I've gotten every single item that you can get, including Elemental, because that's like super huge in the beginning. But yeah, I don't play through Midgar anymore.
I love Midgar for what it is. It is the beginning and the end of the journey. It's I love the idea of Midgar. I love the where you got upper class on the upper plates and then lower class on lower plates, or lower on the ground. And I thought that was just a really cool concept that actually, when I first played the game, I didn't understand. I didn't get it. Like, it didn't click until I play it a couple more times, and I'm also 7 years old, so it didn't matter. But I just remember like that being like a thing where I was just like, what? Where's the city at? I don't get it. I don't understand. Where am I at in the slums? But yeah, when you actually get it and you're like, oh my God, it's a steel sky. That's awesome. Like these people down low do not get to see sunlight. At least that's what I thought until Remake came out, and I was like, oh, okay, so sun does kind of creep in, obviously. But I'm like, they don't really get to see the sun or feel rain or like anything like that. And I just thought that was so interesting, like the whole plates. And then the fact
don't they say in the remake or in the original that there are like these like solar lamps to imitate the sun?
Yes. Yeah. That's how they get their sunlight. But obviously, if you're taking in real life, the way the light works, obviously it's going to seep in a little bit. But but yeah, so like I thought that was just really cool. That was the concept of this place. But I do agree with you on the fact, once you've played Final Fantasy VII so many times, you know what Midgar is, you know what it's about. You're just kind of like, okay, let's go. But there's so many key moments that happen in Midgar that just make it special, just because, like the plate dropping, Genova blood trail, just so much in that, meeting Aerith, seeing all the people for the first time, Tifa, Red 13, Cloud
wearing a dress, nailing it.
There's nailed it. I know.
Yes, Queen Slay.
So there are so many iconic moments in Midgar. So it is hard not to like it for me. But I'm going to go with a different one. I'm going with the Forgotten Capital. Because when you go down to that just beautiful, like it's still one of the coolest looking areas and the most unique looking area. It's like celestial, you know what I mean? Like when you go down there, and it's just really cool. I love that. And then of course, one of the most iconic moments in video games happens at the Forgotten Capital. So yeah, I think that one will probably be the one that I look forward to seeing every time I play it, I guess. But for Gold Saucer as well, shout out to Gold Saucer. Just because when you beat Final Fantasy VII and you're growing up with the PlayStation and you don't have many other games to play, you just come back to Gold Saucer, and you can just play the mini games there. Like pretty much it's like a collection of all the mini games in the within the whole game, and I think that's really fun. My least favorite area is, it's so hard to pick out a least favorite area, because I mean obviously you just love everything about the game, so I don't. It's got to be Cactus Island. I mean, what is the purpose of Cactus Island, guys? I mean, come on. I mean, besides, yeah, we know it's
Cacti.
there. We know it's there. But look, listen, it's Cactus Island. It's whatever. That's my least favorite. I'm just gonna go with Cactus Island. Or the old man's house. This fool.
Oh yeah.
Be nice to that guy.
He's got indigestion.
He's got indigestion. What is this guy? Take a remedy, bro. So yeah, we're gonna move on to the next one, guys. It is the next topic. My favorite, probably one of my favorites. I don't know. The original soundtrack of Final Fantasy VII. I keep saying this, and I mean it every time I say it. The greatest soundtrack in video games for me. I mean, like I just keep using the greatest. It's not over the top or anything, guys. I mean what I say. The greatest soundtrack in video games. Final Fantasy VII soundtrack had so many bangers, if you know what I'm saying, guys, right? Look, dude, what's your top 5? That's what I want to know. I want to know what's your top 5 songs, or if you can only give me a top 3, I don't know, just off the top of your head. Like, don't even like really think about it too much. Just give me your top 5. For me, it's got to be One Winged Angel, 100%. Come on, let's go. One Winged Angel, and then the opening theme song of Final Fantasy VII. Like or just the main theme, right? The main theme, not the opening bombing run, but the main theme. And then it's got to be Cosmo Canyon for me. Freaking love Cosmo Canyons. Oh man, what?
Exactly.
Every time I just love it. I'll just listen to Cosmo Canyon just randomly. Why not? You know what I mean? And then it's got to be the Turks theme. I love it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh man, it's just the jam. It's the jam. They changed it up in the remake, and I was a little upset. They made it kind of go a little more spy, and I was like, man, I don't know, man. It doesn't hit as hard, you know. And then number 5 for me, Aerith's theme. Just because
I was about to say,
yeah,
it better be number 5.
Yeah. You can put on Aerith's theme, and just like when it was the that PlayStation 4 theme that they released, and they would just play that music, I would literally just let it play and just in the background. It's just so soothing and calming. I love it. So yeah, that's my top 5 without me thinking about it too much.
Too much, huh?
Yeah, I think about it all the time.
All the time. All the time. Now you mentioned Forgotten Capital earlier, and that stuff, that music's been playing in a loop in my mind this whole time. There's just so much good music in this game.
It's so
good. Costa del Sol, man. Ooh, I just want to kick back on the beach, you know, with a margarita and some kid drowning in the water because he doesn't know how to swim, and then Cloud goes out there and tries to help him. You know, I mean, no, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. But hey, shout out to Final Fantasy VII. 1997 was a different time, man. Different time.
Different times.
I can't give you a top 5 because you already named all the ones I wanted. But
okay,
we'll just go. Yeah.
What's your favorite? Your favorite of all time? Aerith's theme. All right, cool.
Aerith's theme.
Vinny.
So you named a couple of mine. I wanted to give an honorable mention to Gold Saucer because I feel like it's catchy, and with how much time I spent at Gold Saucer, I never really got sick of it. It was just, it was just pretty good. But Sid's theme, more specifically when it gets all like kind of acoustic, and it sounds very like it fit. Like, he goes to space for the first time, and you just hear it like plinking on the guitar, like all slow, and then like the whole like orchestra, I guess you would say, orchestra comes in. I thought that was really, really good how they changed his theme to match the mood of the scene. But so my number 2 favorite song is overshadowed by your favorite song. Birth of a God, when you fight Bizarro Sephiroth. If you listen to like that whole song, it's actually the boss theme and Sephiroth's theme put together.
I hear it in my head right now.
It's so like you'll hear a part and you'll be like, oh, that's from Sephiroth's theme, and then like you'll hear another part and you'll be like, oh, they kind of changed that from like regular boss battle music themes. And I just thought it was really cool how they mix those two together for the final boss fight with Sephiroth. But then my number 1 favorite song is Genova's theme. It's a ringtone on my phone.
Yeah.
It's I've heard it played by like 4 different bands in like metal versions. I have the original, like it's in my playlist of songs I listen to in my car. Like I listened to the original 1997.
I'm feeling like I missed it. Yeah, I think I have.
Genova is my favorite.
God, I want to throw that in my top 5 too, but I don't know where to put it. So I love Genova's name. God.
Yeah.
Reed, what's up, man?
Yeah, man. For years and years, my brother and I had just a CD of the OST, and we would just listen to it playing. Like, I mean, we were still playing GoldenEye in like the mid 2000s and everything. You know, like we or even when we played like Final Fantasy X or other RPGs, we'd be listening to that or playing cards or something. But I mean, it's hard to put them in order.
Right.
Because like the main theme, like Final Fantasy VII, like theme is definitely up there. Cosmo Canyon, I mean, obviously mentioned that earlier. That's definitely top. Genova was definitely my top. I was hoping I was going to break that out, but Vinny beat me to it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you son of a. You didn't hit the right stick. Fake Zach is all right.
Fake Zach. Fake
Yeah, that's
Zach,
actually my favorite
baby,
song in the
fake
OST
Zach.
is Fake Zach.
It's just gotta
That's
be
my
fake
favorite.
Zach. The fake Zach, baby.
Oh no.
Oh no, what have we done?
Yeah. So yeah, Genova. I mean, the boss. I mean, just the normal boss music is pretty sweet too, though. Attack of the Weapons, when the weapons come out, is another really good one.
What's up, dude?
I
Like,
mean,
how do they do
actually,
it, man? How do they do it?
yeah.
Like any
I
song.
want to take this opportunity to plug this. It's a favorite artist of mine. I mentioned it to you guys in the chat, but it was a sample group called Team Teamwork, and they did a Final Fantasy VII OST remix called Final Fantasy VII, and it just sampled like hip hop and stuff into all the Final Fantasy VII OST, and it's so good. Like, I wish there was a way we could play one like right now, but he does that, and then he does
Oh, sorry. I was going to say just shout out to Rebirth, real name James, at real names James. They did a hip hop album, basically just rapping the story, and that group and Black Materia. They did an awesome hip hop album on that. So.
Oh yeah, nice. No, it was, these Teamwork guys did Final Fantasy VII and Ocarina of Rhyme for his Ocarina of Time OST as well. It's so good.
Awesome.
But yeah, I just wanted to plug that. But yeah, those are the ones I can really think of.
All right, then we'll go on to we've already kind of covered the optional quests, guys. We talked about the optional bosses, like the super bosses, the optional characters, the chocobo breeding, the mini games, all of those optional quests that every playthrough is kind of different for each individual. At least at this point, I'm sure you'd just find people who have just done it everything like us. But yeah, so that was really cool. I just wanted to throw that out there. We don't have to really talk about it too much, except for mini games. I'd like to talk about what was your favorite mini game. With Final Fantasy VII had so many mini games. Like, it was just jam packed with mini games that really didn't matter. Like jumping across that the swinging cable in Midgar. You had mini games.
Shout out to Mog.
Yeah. Like that one.
We'll just go with that one. That's me. It's so easy, man. That's me.
Right. You have that
easy
one.
mini games.
You got so many mini games in this game. So in fact, I was gonna list them off to you guys, but no, I'm not going to do that. There's just way too many.
There's a lot.
Yeah,
there's way too many mini games. But yeah, so let's just name your favorite. For me, the one that stands out, I don't know, just off the top of my head, stands out so much to me is Super Dunk. Just because
oh man,
that's how you get all the GP. You know what I mean? Like, I did
spent
so
a lot
much
of time at Super Dunk.
So much Super Dunk for me. And I got it to the point where it was just like, got it easy. You know what I mean? Always a swish, but yeah, that and another G-Bike. I did like G-Bike. So Cloud on the motorcycle is always just an exciting mini game for me. What about you guys?
If anyone ever asks you how do you get Omni Slash, just say the Dunk game.
Yeah, that's it.
Shoot the J. Shoot it.
So
another Chappelle reference for John Eric Bentley there.
My favorite mini game was the chocobo breeding, probably because of how masterful. Like, so how many of you did the chocobo breeding without looking at a single guide?
Without looking at the strategy guide. Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you the same. I didn't do it with the strategy guide the first time I did it.
The first time I ever did it, I
cheated.
kept going to the chocobo sage, and the way, like, you know, because one of my friends asked me, they were like, how are you supposed to know how to get a gold chocobo? And I was like, you gotta talk to the purple dude. He's like, what? It's like, yeah, the purple ball wizard in, you know, you just see this like random house, like, you know, it incentivizes that gated you know, world map and everything. I found the chocobo sage because I was just enjoying flying around in the high wind, and I saw a house and I was just like, oh, there's grass, I can land there. And I landed there and I talked to the chocobo sage, and you know, he was like, oh, you got a carob nut and everything. And I didn't look up anything, and I was just like, where do I get a carob nut? And I stole like I tried, you know, I restarted my game because I thought maybe I had sold it, and got back up to that point and opened every chest.
So he trolled you.
Yeah.
He made you start over. Oh man.
So I went to every shop and I was just like,
oh no.
Okay, the only way to get this has to be from either killing a monster or stealing. So I stole and killed everything, and I eventually found the carob nut, and I was just like, all right, awesome. And you know, and mind you, I did the chocobo breeding after I had beaten Ruby.
Yeah, right.
So I already had a gold chocobo.
Yeah, right.
I thought the chocobo breeding was going to like give you something better, and I was like, I have 2 gold chocobos now. So
it just shows Vinny like going through the world with 1 foot on each gold chocobo. They're like roped together.
And to go back to that like gated world map and everything, I thought it was cool that like you had the high wind, the ultimate, you know, at the time you thought it was like the ultimate thing, and you still found caves you couldn't land near, and I was like, how do I get there? And then I got the gold chocobo. So like it's just a testament to how this game just builds off of itself, and it's like it contrasts itself because like it prevents you from doing things it wants you to do, and it's just like, you want to go here, go here. We're not going to tell you how to get here, but there's a purple dude who'll tell you how to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like every piece of this game just works to like further itself. Like it's just scaffolding, just continuously is building off of itself. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Dude, I agree. I did it the same way, without looking at strategy guide. I was weird when I was a kid. I was like, strategy guys are cheating. So like that's cheating. Don't do it. So I always played games without looking at strategy guides. But yeah, I mean, there's always, it's up to you. As long as you're having fun, enjoying the game, do what you got to do.
Yes.
But yeah, so I don't want to spend too much time. I actually do want to talk about our unfiltered thoughts on Remake. So let's make our way to that topic now. So to recap, we've talked about the greatest game of all time, the Final Fantasy VII. We are celebrating that today. And I hope you enjoyed our recap, our thoughts, our memories, our favorite experiences, and just enjoyed hearing about Final Fantasy VII. We hope that you jump into the conversation as well. I'd love to read through your comments. Tell me your Final Fantasy VII story. Tell me your personal Final Fantasy VII story, like we just opened up today. And you know, just it's cool. I want to read through them. I want to learn more about other people and their experiences. It was such, it was really cool to hear your guys, your experiences and your personal stories today, and like how this game has affected you guys in this, you know, in a similar way. Yeah. So share your story in the comments. Thank you for watching that recap of the original Final Fantasy. Now, the original Final Fantasy VII. Now, let's
bring it
talk.
on.
Let's talk
unfiltered, baby.
Yeah.
This is an unfiltered thoughts.
I'm gonna go get my swear jar.
Go get the. So this is about Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, I do want to start this off with everybody here has enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Remake. So if you're watching this, don't get triggered. If we're going to say something that maybe you didn't agree with, it's just, you know what I mean? We all love Final Fantasy VII, as you could tell for the past 2 hours that we've been talking about it.
We'll probably say things that each of us don't agree with.
I mean, yeah, I was
Right
going to say,
now. Yeah, like,
this is going to be a diverse conversation, which is great, which I love that. I'm glad that we have people in this chat, in particular, who absolutely adored it and loved it. For me, I'll start it off, and I want to make it just don't hold back just because we're a YouTube channel. You know, you don't want to. Hopefully, we're not going to lose followers or whatever. But so yeah.
I don't think we're gonna say anything like so offensive.
Right.
Obviously,
people have just sat through the last 2 hours and heard our stories about how much Final Fantasy VII means to us. So, for me, Remake is probably my game of the year. I'll start off with that. It's probably my game of the year, which is going to sound weird after with the following comments.